Welcome to the show, everyone. I am so excited about today's conversation because this is an area that I have very little knowledge about and experience in, except for obviously the physics and metaphysics of vibration and frequency, which I do understand, but the application of sound on top of that and using a new instrument or tool gets me very excited. I'll tell you the story in a minute. Welcome to the show, Eileen.
Hi, JJ. Hi, everyone.
So I am just meeting Eileen right now as of this conversation, as of this podcast interview. Last year, 2024, I spent part of my birthday in Sedona. And on the Airbnb app, there are experiences. And I think I was just sort of looking for, well, what else could I be doing while I'm here in Sedona? And I saw someone who was offering a tuning fork session. And I knew about tuning forks, but I'd never really had a full on session. Someone years and years and years ago did an evaluation on me and used a tuning fork to sort of see where my frequency was. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. So, so this session, I thought, well, that's cool. I'm going to go have a tuning fork session. And a lot of synchronicities happened with this woman. But by the end, I think I asked her for some more information and she recommended Eileen's book. So it's Tuning the Human Biofield. And I got very excited about having a fork. So of course I had to read Eileen's chapters on like what kind of fork to start with. And so I ran out and, got myself a fork that she had recommended, but used it like once or twice, just intuitively like what felt good. But I definitely was not doing it in a like hugely scientific or structured way. So I'm excited to learn from you today, Eileen, and to dive a little deeper into what tuning the human biofield means, so everyone out there can understand it a little differently. And then, of course, find your origin story, listen to where you started, how this came about, and writing the book and creating this certification and helping all these people around the world with experiencing what tuning forks can do to help you heal.
Yay. There's a lot here for
Yeah, well, why
sure.
don't we start with your story? How you're a massage therapist first?
Yeah, I started as a massage therapist in 1996. And I was just doing massage part-time. I owned a restaurant, but the restaurant had really ruined my health and ruined my back. And so I had taken a leave of absence for a year and learned massage therapy and learned boundaries and all kinds of other things that I needed to learn. And went back to the restaurant, but did massage part time. Now, I knew that I was not going to be a massage therapist. I had been interested in potentially becoming a naturopath, but I hated school and the thought of like 12 more years of school or whatever it was going to take really wasn't appealing. And I felt like massage was just a good place to start. But I knew from the outset that it was just a starting point. I wasn't sure where it was going to lead me, but where it led me to was vibrational medicine. And I read Deepak Chopra's book, Quantum Healing, and it introduced me to the idea that everything is vibration, that things appear solid, but fundamentally it's all fluctuating fields of information in a field of light. And that we are fundamentally packets of energy and information. We are packets of vibrational self, right? On every level. And so then that led me to this idea that you could use sound and music and color in healing. And that's all seemed really logical to me to treat vibration with vibration. So I went out and found all the books I could find on that topic, which there weren't a lot in 1996. But I found what was out there and I read them. And then I got a catalog, a Gaiam catalog in the mail. I think they're Gaia now, but they were Gaiam back then. And there was a set of tuning forks for healing in this catalog. And so I just ordered them on impulse. And I started playing with them with my massage therapy clients. And that process, even from the outset, so many people say to me what you said. It's like, well, I have tuning forks and I don't know what to do with them. I didn't know what to do with them either. Like, I had no idea. And but what I found was, even though I was completely clueless, I was still affecting outcomes for people without even trying. That people would say, wow, that pain that I had is gone, or I slept through the night for the first time and since I can remember, or I haven't felt anxious all week. And then they say, do that sound thing again. And so in fairly short order, my massage practice morphed into a sound therapy practice. But at the time, I was also using color. I got color light bulbs in every color of the spectrum. 100-watt bulbs, which are very hard to find these days, things that are that simple. They were incandescent bulbs. They're very powerful. And then I also set up a surround sound stereo system with a subwoofer under the table. And I would do tuning forks, color, music selections, pretty intricate sessions that lasted for a long time. And then the lamp broke, and then I moved to an office where I couldn't have the subwoofer. If I couldn't have the subwoofer, then there was no point in the surround sound. And then I just kind of whittled it down to just the forks. And I used the forks as a hobby for like 10 years. And I never wanted it to be my vocation because people responded very dismissively when I told them that I was using tuning forks for sound healing. And it sounds even kind of fruity now in 2025, but you can imagine in 1996 in Connecticut, how that was received, right? Not very well. And I didn't really know enough or understand enough to defend it intelligently, so it just made me kind of shrink a bit that people felt that way. So I had no desire to be a healer or to have it be my vocation. But it was fascinating, and it was fascinating right from the beginning because the tuning forks really surprised me, and they showed me things that I didn't understand. And so I think we all like to be surprised, right? There's something about surprise that we appreciate as humans, and so that curiosity factor kept bringing me back to it again and again. And initially, I was just using the tuning forks right over the body. So they were the C major scale, and they came with a little simple instruction book. It said use C in the root chakra, and D in the sacral chakra, and E in the solar plexus, and so on, right? And so that's what I had been doing. And I've just been holding them over the body, sort of panning them over the body, finding areas where the tone would change. Like I thought, oh, this is a C. It's just going to be a C. It's going to sound like a C. But what I didn't expect was that what I understand now is that the body gives off vibes. And we all know that because we've all gotten a good vibe off somebody or a bad vibe of somebody, or we sense someone's intention, right? So we all understand that the body gives off vibes and that we feel those vibes. But the body literally gives off vibes. It gives off very high frequency, very low amplitude signals. And a tuning fork, an aluminum tuning fork, gives off many overtones and undertones. And what happens is those waves intersect. Like if you throw two stones in a pond, those waves come together, right? So those body emissions and tuning fork emissions intersect. And then that information would actually precipitate down through the octaves into the hearing range. So if somebody had sharp pain in a shoulder and I held the tuning fork over that area, the tone would go sharp. If somebody had a lot of heartache, there would be a lot of heaviness and like over their heart area. You hear this kind of like, right? So the tuning fork sort of became this invisible ink decoder that allowed me to hear the body and to find areas in the body's signal that was dissonant. And because the tuning forks initially resonate with that signal, but then through the physics law of resonance and entrainment, tuning fork is producing a strong, coherent signal. And what it does is it coaxes the body into expressing coherently. Instead, we're self-tuning instruments. And tuning forks actually help us, our body's electrical system, which I didn't know we had back then. There was a lot of things that took a long time to figure out. So for 10 years, I saw maybe 1 or 2 people a week that found me via word of mouth. And then one day in 2006, I discovered that there was actual acoustic phenomenon going on in the field, in the atmosphere around the body. And I started investigating sounding the field, right? Because it's kind of like radar or sonar or LIDAR or ultrasound, this idea that you bounce sound waves off of something that's invisible and it makes it visible, right? Except in this case, it made it kind of audible, but even tangible or touchable, because I would find areas where the tone would change and it would feel like I was encountering resistance or mass. discovered that like these loud spots had actual mass to them, and then I could move them around. This was one of the most bizarre things. Remember that toy we had when we were kids that was a face and it had all these iron filings and a magnet, and you could move the iron filings around, give it eyebrows and right, that sort of thing. So I discovered that I could move energy that I was finding in the field like a stylus would move iron filings. I could literally move energy around, like the tuning fork became magnetic. And so I developed this really simple practice of finding loud spots in weird places and just moving them to the midline of the body, moving them to the energy centers, right? Chakras are places where we have nerve plexuses. So there's a definite physiological junction box where we have these subtle bodies, which are just higher harmonics of that electrical activity. And so on this particular day in 2006, I accidentally discovered a loud spot about 2.5 feet away from someone's neck. And they were having pain and pulling and discomfort all in their jaw, their neck, and their shoulder. And so I thought I was very curious to find a loud spot, like way out there, because I'd just been working, right over the body. But when I moved that, when I did what we now call a field adjustment, it was very amazing. It was such a weird sensation that it had been so quiet right over the center of her throat chakra. And then when I moved this loud spot in, it became very loud and very clear. And she called me the next day and told me that all of her pain and pulling was gone. And she'd gone to many different providers, all different kinds of holistic things, and nobody had been able to resolve it for her. So it was kind of like a miracle that I sort of was poking around in her field and did this adjustment. And that was really where biofield tuning was born, was in that moment. And then I started, with the next people that came in, I started exploring the atmosphere around the body. And over the course of about 4 years, I really discovered that there was a very specific anatomy and physiology to this field, that the sound, the sort of sonar made visible these structures, that I found things that felt like rivers and things that felt like immovable points and walls and membranes and all kinds of things. And then this larger picture, that what I call the biofield anatomy map that biofield tuning is based in, emerged, and sort of a map of the mind. So what is the biofield? So the biofield is your body's electrical system. And we're not really told about that. It was understood in the late 1800s, the early 1900s, that the body was electrical. And there were devices that you could buy in the Sears and Roebuck catalog for your electric health. So this idea that we have an electrical system isn't really new. It was understood, and people were treating their electrical systems. Tesla created different devices to help the body's electrical system. Even right up until the 40s, people were making use of frequency medicine, frequency devices. But then it all stopped right around World War II, the end of World War II, when I guess German scientists came to the United States and formed pharmaceutical companies. And then it became very much a world of chemical, mechanical, pill for every problem. Something goes wrong, you need drugs or surgery. And there was a significant suppression of awareness about the electrical nature of our body and our environment, because it's not just our body that's electrical. We live in an electrical atmosphere that we're continually exchanging information with, like why people ground or earth, right? And you're bringing your electrical body into equilibrium with your environment instead of trying to run it through rubber-soled shoes. So what I really came to see is that your heartbeat is electric, your brain is electric, nervous system, your blood carries a charge. It's becoming more known that you need a certain amount of voltage across cell membranes in order for them to function. Gerald Pollack talks about the fourth phase of water and the structured nature of water within our body, that being a plasma or an electrical phenomenon. I talk about this idea of raising your voltage instead of raising your vibration. We go to the beach to recharge. We go to the forest to recharge. In these areas, there's greater density of ionization of plasma, right? We even create ion generators to create plasma electricity in our homes. And so this is all speaking to your electrical system, but we don't talk about the electrical system in its entirety. And even the standard definition of the word biofield really only speaks to the field that surrounds the body that may or may not exist. It doesn't speak to the fact that you can't separate the electric current that runs through the body, that beats the heart, that keeps your eyes open, from the magnetic field around it. We know basic science that we all learned in grade school that anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And the human body is no different. So I would say that is your biofield. It is your electric self. And that the biofield is what we would call your sense of I, that is your conscious mind, where your thoughts, your electric thoughts happen, where your magnetic feelings and emotions happen. It's where your memory is stored. So this was a big part of mapping the biofield, was discovering that it was actually where our memory bank is stored. It's like we have a cloud of personal storage around us, and our memories are stored in very specific areas in standing waves. And so this sort of exploration I did of the field really showed me the sort of map of mind, and how when we go out of balance mentally, emotionally, relationally, that specific emotions affect specific organs, affect specific body parts. And this was something, as a clinician over many thousands of clients, really came to see, wow, everyone who comes in to see me who has right hip issues is overdoing, is overthinking, is continually running their to-do lists through their mind. And that it would be that same from person to person to person. So in this model, the body is inside the mind, inside the bubble of the mind. So the biofield is shaped like a torus. It's a bubble, and it has a membrane, a double layer plasma membrane, like a bubble. And that this is the container of self. And I would even go so far as to say that it's what we call our soul, because when you die, your light goes out. It goes out of your body. They've weighed people before and after death and find you lose a little bit of mass. Many people report being in a room with someone who's dying, who dies, and seeing that light go up and out, right? So to me, this idea of our electrical system really merges science and spirituality, in that my biological light is also eternal, right? So it's here now animating this body, but you can't kill light. Light, energy can't be created or destroyed. So I would say that is the whole sort of big picture of what I discovered, and how sound works so beautifully in helping the body's electrical system, which is really patterns and rhythms, right? You think about something like anxiety is very much a rhythmic disorder in your wiring, the way electricity is flowing through you. It's an incoherent expression. And so we've had a lot of success treating things like anxiety. In fact, we even have published studies that we've done treating people with anxiety, because your chemistry is downstream of the rhythms and the information in your electrical system. So when we get right in there and we get the body to reset its rhythms back to its factory settings, then it changes your whole downstream experience.
So many crossovers of so many things that you just said. First of all, I love the blend of the science with the spirituality. I think I attain that. It's my goal always, is to bring those two together. Dr. Bruce Lipton's been on the show a million times. We talk about all the things when it comes to epigenetics. And one of the analogies he uses is that you, as the being, so you are saying the light, and then when you die, the light sort of leaves the physical body. And he would say that that the body is the television, and that you are the program, and the program's always running, and then you just need the television. So when the television breaks, the program doesn't stop, you just get another television. And so another way to sort of make that really simple, but I really loved how eloquently you, and specifically you, outlined all of the different scientific ideas that go along with this healing. It's just a resetting. It's the nervous system, as you were saying. And there's so many different applications. I just got done. One of the reasons why you and I rescheduled our original appointment is because I just did a first. When I do a new group, I call it a beta. It's because I haven't done it before, and because it's me sort of working things out, like you were over the years, learning and learning and trying, and then you put it together, and then you still work it, and you still see how what else comes in to affect your thoughts about it or your application about it, and you fine tune it. And so I did a beta, and it was on healing the mother wound. And in healing the mother wound, we use touch and earthing and sound through voices and singing and other things to help sort of reset the body and to let the nervous system take a couple notches down, right? Like to unwind people. But we did it over the course of 5 days. And so the presence, and not everybody has 5 days to go be somewhere and sing Kumbaya. And that's not what we're saying. But for what I love about this therapy and what you've created is that it gives people a couple different options of how to utilize it or understand it or experience it. So on one aspect, you have the book, Tuning the Human Biofield, which people can learn a little bit more about it, and you sell forks. So someone could try it out on themselves. You have practitioners that you have all over the world that you've educated and certified. And so someone can find somebody to work with. And it's also the education piece of understanding how this all works. So we understand its application and ability to use many different forms of in crisis, or having a tool in your back pocket, or saying, oh, like you said, there are many people that have tried so many different things, and to recognize that it's not just the physicality of our own physical body, but our energy, our energetic field, so our biofield, and then the field beyond that, which is influencing our energetic field, and how those two things come together. Because I think we forget. That's why I made everybody come here for that event, because I do a lot of things online. And while online is great, and I have very specific containers where we support each other daily, where there's a lot of touch, there's a lot of accountability, not physical touch, but so that way we're really getting into the habits, the patterns, the choices, the mindset, the awareness, the consciousness of someone's life. But I knew that with healing the mother wound, it had to be in person first, because of the electrical component of being in person and together, like that trumped having it done with people all over the world. I said, look, you have to come here first. We have to start in person. We can integrate as we move forward after that. But I think our nervous systems need the overload of that application of touch and electromagnetic frequencies of being together and grounding and earthing, all the things that we did. For someone who has tried so many different modalities of different kinds of healing, and I love that you compared it also to different frequencies. So for instance, like you said, making the invisible visible through ultrasound, or right? Is that what you meant? So, which that's very fascinating for me too. How would someone get started? I mean, I know there's also, definitely working with someone is ultimate because they're educated, they're experienced. Like as I was listening to, I was thinking, do I have to be, and I'm a singer, I was a singer dancer, so I know music, but does someone need to be really good in their ear to be able to hear and notice the difference in a tone when it changes from, so with my tuning fork, if I was to, make it vibrate, and then am I listening for? Because if I have a tuning fork and I'm putting it, like one of the things I really love about the tuning fork is how I feel it, the vibration, like putting it on my physical body to absorb the frequency that's happening once I strike it and it gets going. But then if I put it on me, I can't hear. So when you mentioned the tone changing when you're in someone's biofield, and let's say the woman with the neck issue and she had something outside of her field, how good does someone has to be, or is this just something you have to learn to be able to notice that difference if I'm working on myself with a tuning fork?
Okay, well, first of all, there's two types of tuning forks. So what you have there is a weighted tuning fork. Weighted tuning forks have those little barrels on the end, and those are designed to use on the body. You don't hear them. It's not about what you hear with those at all. You can use those on the body, you can use them in the field, but you're not listening for feedback when you use them in the field. Then there's unweighted forks, like I have here, right? This is 222 hertz, and you can absolutely hear that fork, right? So when you are learning to do biofield tuning, which I outlined completely in Tuning the Human Biofield, so there's only one chapter on how to use the forks, and the rest is all framing a different cosmology that makes it make sense, right? Because I could have just said, here's how you do it, but if I didn't explain the biofield, if I didn't explain plasma, if I didn't explain ether, if I didn't explain sound, then it would be content without context. And so Tuning the Human Biofield really fills in like the whole background picture before we get to the how you tune. And biofield tuning is an incredibly simple approach. It basically is just starting at the outer edge of the field, finding that edge, combing in towards the body, stopping every place that you encounter distortion or dissonance, letting the body resolve that. The body just does it itself. Like, you're just a technician. It's just your job to find the funky spots, stay there, then the body and the sound take care of the rest. And then you're like, oh, now I can move again. You just go, you come all the way to the midline, you kind of drop in the energy that you've released, because there's frozen, stuck energy in our field that wants to be back in circulation, but is trapped in the trauma responses of our life, micro and macro. You're sort of like detangling hair in a way. And then you come to center, you help that to integrate into the body, and then you pull away from the body. Like if they're lying on the table, you go up to the ceiling. So we've combed in while they're lying down, we've dropped into the middle, and now we're lifting the fork away from the body towards the ceiling. That's it. That's a biofield tuning adjustment. People are always like, how do you treat this? How do you treat that? How do you treat this? And I'm like, zoop, zoop. That's how you treat it. It could not be simpler, right? When you train kids learn it in very quickly. Now, what I've discovered is that different people have different learning styles. And in fact, case in point, I just had 2 of my friends come and visit. They came on the same day, and I taught them both, and they practiced on each other. And the first person who did it was very kinesthetic. He felt it in his body. He felt it in his fingertips, right? He was like so embodied in his response. And he's more of an earthy athlete, earthy kind of person. The next person was completely auditory. He heard it. He heard the changes and didn't have as much of a body response at all, but was very clear that he could tell when those changes happen. So if you're very kinesthetic, it can be helpful to start with a weighted fork, just going the thing is slow. You have to go slow with a quiet mind and an open curiosity, right? The moment you start thinking, you start throwing static up in the field, your own self-doubt will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But both of them remarked about how tangible and how obvious it was to them. The one in particular who was very kinesthetic, he said, I didn't expect it to be so tangible and so obvious, right? So it's not some weird subtle thing that only some people might perceive. It's a very clear signal. It's just a matter of figuring out, am I looking for what I'm feeling, or am I going to be able to hear? And I would say the majority of people are kinesthetic, which was surprising to me, because when I was learning, I was extremely auditory. And I was like, do you hear that? Hear that? And people who are kinesthetic and they're being overridden by what they feel, they don't hear, right? They learn to hear in time. They learn to hear. Everyone learns in time. And there's a very specific language that the forks teach us. Now, like a cheap fork off Amazon is not a sound healing tool. I just want to say that like I make my own forks that are specifically designed for this work. They're made in America. They're a unique alloy you can't get anywhere else. And they're really specifically designed to accentuate the undertones and overtones, because that's where the magic happens in the unweighted forks. And so every emotion sounds a particular way. So just like music, like JJ, if you and I were listening to a sad song, I wouldn't have to say to you, JJ, this song is sad. Because you'd be like, duh, Eileen, like I can tell the song is sad, right? Well, it's the same way with the tuning forks. It's like you can tell when you're in a sad memory. It sounds sad. It feels sad. You can tell when you're in something that's angry and churny and stuck. Like you can feel that. In the same way you feel and understand your own inner emotional language, you hear what is projected in the tone of the fork. And it's not that subtle. And it's something that you learn over time. Like fear has a pulsing quality. It's got like this double beat, right? And the first time you encounter it, you're like, oh my God, that's fear, right? And so the next time you hear it, you know that that's fear. It's a whole language, and it's very nuanced, because your biofield speaks vibration, not English, right? And so not only do we feel fear in that pattern, but so do animals and even plants. This is something that I've discovered just from playing around, that a plant can be afraid, right? The Secret Life of Plants, and he was able to really measure the emotional responses. And so in my exploration of plant, I'm like, that plant is afraid. It's going to do thing. It's like, what are you doing to me? kind of response. And so it reveals to you this language that all of nature speaks, which is, it's fascinating, right? It's a very, and every pathology has a specific frequency signature. Like, let's say you have arthritis in your right shoulder, but not in your left. So when we bounce sound off of your shoulders, we can hear the grainy quality of arthritis in the shoulder that has arthritis. It produces a different ping back. A healthy liver produces a certain ping back. A fatty liver, like that, that's not right in there, right? And so I'm able to be able to diagnose, not in a medical way because I'm not a doctor, but like what is going wrong with the body? Like I had an interesting experience once with a guy I was working with, and he was like, the yoga bun kind of new age kind of guy, did yoga and meditated and all that. And I got over his pancreas, and it was making the weirdest sound. Like I've never heard a pancreas sound like that, right? And I was like, wow, I don't know what that is, why your pancreas sounds that way, but let's just hang out with it, reflect that sound back, help the pancreas to get back to its factory setting. And so I ran into him a few weeks later in the grocery store because he didn't say anything while I was working on him. I ran him to the grocery store and he said, Eileen, that sound my pancreas is making? I was like, yeah, that's pretty intense. He said, I know exactly what it was. He said, I was drinking 5 Red Bulls a day. Yeah, and he stopped. Like right after that, he stopped because he got to hear how his pancreas was like completely freaking out.
Amazing.
Yeah, right. So everything in your body has this happy tone, it's happy rhythm, right? You're either coherent and all your inner musicians are playing the same key, the same sheet music, everything is groovy and rhythmic. Or you've got places that are shut down, that are off rhythm, that you've like gone into a void around, or you're overfeeding, because of some mental perseveration. Like it's all vibrational patterning expressing itself electrically in your body.
So I know I bought the fork because I thought, you know what, I want to use it on myself. Same thing with the sound bowl that I have behind me that I swear I've used like 3 times. Because when I was having acupuncture at the time, my acupuncturist would also during the treatment do a sound bowl playing while I was on the table. And I thought that was powerful and cool and new and different than I had had before because I've been doing acupuncture for 25 years. How would someone work with these on themselves on a daily basis for not necessarily, let's say you're out of you feel good and you've had the sessions or you've worked on yourself just to sort of maintain vibrational health. What did you call it? Not getting high vibrational, but getting
High
voltage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I want to increase my voltage every day, if I want to, use it as a vitamin and do preventative work, what would somebody do?
Well, you want to combine raising your voltage with clarifying your signal, right? This is the essence of this work, is that you want your signal to be clear and strong. You want your battery meter to be high. You want to be exhibiting high levels of coherence so that you maintain a regulated state even when you are in a stressful situation or around difficult characters. Because it's going into dysregulation that starts to make our health go south, right? Even the Center for Disease Control says 85% of disease is caused by stress. What is stress? Emotional mismanagement, energetic dysregulation, right? And so the more that you are subjected to forces that dysregulate you, the older you are going to become. You're going to age more quickly. So part of this sort of secret to staying young, you look at these little old ladies, so many little old ladies who live to be over 100, I've seen smoke cigarettes, they drink a little booze, they laugh a lot, they enjoy their life. It's clear that they have learned how to manage their stress well. And that is what has contributed to their longevity. So we want to use the tuning fork as a way to help build our resilience, build the clarity in our signal, and increase the voltage running through our entire battery, which becomes diminished through patterns of tension. The more patterns of tension, the more fascia knotting and binding, the more muscular stiffness you have, the more likely you are to get inflammation because electricity becomes trapped in certain areas because the flow isn't happening. You end up with accumulations in some areas and deficiencies in others. So you want to optimize like a smoothness of signaling. And so there's a few different ways you can do that. So I created this tuning fork, which is kind of like the one you have. You have a 128, I'm pretty sure. This is, and that's a standard one. You can get those for $15 on Amazon. Okay. I used to use one. Like before I created my own line of forks, I used the 128. As soon as I created my own, which are kind of based on research and, observation, I stopped using the 128. I don't use that anymore, which isn't to say it's not useful, but I created tools that I think are more useful. So this one, the way that this is different than that one, so that's a slightly lower frequency. This is 93.96 hertz. This is the Schumann resonance, the background electrical pulse within the Earth's atmosphere, which is around 7.83 hertz. It fluctuates. It is not rising. I know that there's a whole internet thing that like the Schumann resonance is rising and the Earth is ascending. That's not true. The Schumann resonance stays at a pretty constant, but sometimes we see increases in amplitude of the signal, which will spike, accenting overtones. So that doesn't mean that the fundamental is changing in any way. It just means that the strength of the signal is resonating the upper octaves of that frequency. And so this is 7.83 times 12. And the body really likes the Schumann resonance, because we're bathed in it all the time. And so because the Schumann resonance is embedded in this, the body likes this fork. Forks like the 128 or even some of the other weighted forks I have forks based in the Fibonacci sequence. Like you can use them for a little while, but then the body gets kind of tired of them. You're like, okay, I'm done with that. That was your experience of the 128. You use it a little bit and you're like, okay, I'm done with that. You weren't really super inspired to go back to it. Right?
Well, partly because I don't know what to do with it. Like when I had the session, I laid there and she did both. She did she worked on me from the outside in, and then she did stuff that was, touching me, and I liked the vibration. So I just thought, I gravitate towards listening to her intuition and, things that feel good. So I'm like, okay, it feels good. So I'm going to put it on places that feel good. Like it feels like, just like I have a Tibetan bell in front of me. So if you're doing sound healing, like the things, the resonance of the frequencies that feel good within your body, you're going, oh yeah, give me more of that. So I just sort of listen, but I want something a little more structured.
Yeah. So the Sonic Slider actually comes with 6 instructional videos that show you how to use it. So one of the things I did when I created this was I created it with an extra long handle. Like a lot of tuning forks like that, when you have a really short handle, it gets tiring to hold. So this is like an extra long handle. And I designed it so that you could slide the handle on your body. Like, have you ever done dry brushing? Right? And you know how you like slide towards the heart? Well, this is like a vibrating dry brush. And so I'm just sliding it on my arms, and you can do it on your arms, you can do it on your legs, you can do it on your face. That was how I originally created it, was just to kind of like smooth the face out and the neck kind of thing. So I started with that and then started using it on the body. This one that I've got, for those that are watching the video, has a little amplifier boot screwed onto the end. So it's called a circuit boot, and this amplifies the vibration. So if you have pain somewhere, you can just place it on it. You can let the vibration run out all the way. And it usually creates relaxation, and it creates a deeper breath. You can put it on the sternum, just repeatedly, and just feel the vibration go in your body. A lot of what people struggle with is that their mind gets too busy, right? A busy mind is just going off with all kinds of stories and nonsense, and that leads to dysregulation. So the vibration on your sternum all of a sudden captures your attention, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here, right? It gets you out of your head and into your body, into your breath, into your somatic experience. And then because it's a steady, pleasing vibration, it starts to entrain you out of dysregulation and into regulation. So it can help with pain, it can help with your breathing, it can help just kind of getting you back together and giving you pause, right, of just this moment. And the benefits of using it in this sliding motion, like people, I'm 50, almost 57, like my arms don't jiggle. And that is not just from the gym. That is really this has helped a lot because you're putting in tone and you become more toned. So people notice that their skin becomes more toned, that their muscles become more toned, that their digestion becomes more toned. I've had a lot of people tell me that they've improved their digestion and food sensitivities by regularly putting vibration, right? Structured vibration and energy into the digestive tract. Even things like first aid, like you get a mosquito bite or a deer fly bite. I got a deer fly bite the other day, and usually those turn into big welts, but I got the Sonic Slider on it immediately. Just one application, let the vibration run down all the way, no welt, no itching. Even things like burns, wounds, breaks, sprains. Now, one of the ways that this works, if we want to look at the science of it, is that a study from Harvard showed that mechanically stimulated tissue heals 2.5 times faster than tissue that is not mechanically stimulated. What is this but mechanical stimulation? And what it's doing is it's just helping to bring blood and fluids and activate the whole biological operation of healing gets stimulated when you add vibration to it. It's very similar to the idea of vibration plates and what that does, standing on a vibration plate, putting vibration into the body. It just creates more movement, and health is really a state of flow, right? That's really what it's about, and that's really what this work is all about, is inviting the field, the body, the fascia, the breath into a more coherent flow. And then that gets stronger and stronger the more you're exposed to coherent sound, and that helps you stay coherent when other people around you are not, right? That's a superpower, to stay calm in traffic or whatever, like that's social resilience, is your ability to maintain your own coherent signal in the face of whatever is going on around you. That's what we all want to feel, that solid and grounded. And that's what the sound has really helped me to do. I have nerves of steel at this point, like such a long fuse. Okay, so that's a weighted fork. But if you want to play with an unweighted fork, like a really simple way to do it, this is, let me do it with a 144. So this is 144 hertz. And I'm just going to activate it on a hockey puck. So this is a hockey puck. I'm going to activate it on that, right? And then I'm just going to maybe put it in front of my face, and I'm going to pull it away until I feel and hear the tone change, right? So it just kind of got pinched and quiet right there. I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of funky. So I'm just going to stay there, and I'm just going to feel what it's doing. What's it inviting me to do? Soften the muscles in my face, take a deeper breath, and then I'm just going to do it again. And I'm just going to kind of come out until it sounds funky again, and just stay there. And so you can do this. You can do this in all of your energy centers. You just pull out until you hit a wobble and stay there. And then your body will use that input like a mirror and a metronome and like a biofeedback kind of thing. And it'll bring itself into a more orderly expression. Then you can also do that same thing with the weighted fork, where you can activate it and you can pull it away until you feel in your fingertips that the vibration has become more unstable. And that's just a part of your signal that's got a little noise in it. And you just stay there. And then, this breath will open up. Like I felt that all the way down in my liver, right? So and you can sit and play with them for as little, as long as you want. You can watch videos and kind of play around with the weighted fork on your body. You can make it a morning ritual when you get out of the shower, like you would dry brush, and just vibrate your whole body. And it can really increase energy, improve mood, improve sleep, just bring you into greater regulation. At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
Right. And the resilience, so I work with people on the sort of mental, emotional, spiritual, cognitive understanding and breakdown of how I interpret life, and therefore, interpret life. You're talking about resilience. And so this is from the inside out, or this is the outside in, helping the inside out, right? So the tuning fork helps to regulate the nervous system and bring us back into balance and flow. And like you said, coherence. And the byproduct of that is feeling calmer, less anxious, more in your body, all the things. And I think that they're both absolutely needed, because that's again why I decided this last group, you had to come in person first, because it'll be faster for our nervous system to make a shift than if we're just intellectualizing the things in our head. And I make everybody do something. I'm very action oriented. Like embodiment is a whole thing for me. And I love having another tool. That's why I was excited to have this conversation, because this to me is another tool to make it quicker, easier, faster for us to shift these things so that we can come into coherence, that we have both the body, mind, and soul and spirit together. And sometimes it's going to be a thought that changes, and a point of view and interpretation. And sometimes it's going to be the tuning fork, and sometimes it's going to be both. But to me, like having a toolbox full of things you can use at any point in time with your health is I mean, what's better than that? I mean, I go to my toolbox, it's huge. What do I need to pull out right now? And this is I just think it's a really fun, especially self-administered, learning how to work with that. I'm still interested in working with somebody. I'm coming back to Sedona in September, so I may go back and see that woman again, or find somebody that you've trained in my local area. I mean, I'm in Ohio. It's pretty crunchy granola here, so I'm pretty sure there's tuning
Well,
forks
yeah, there's
everywhere.
definitely, you're in Ojai, yeah.
Yeah.
There's several practitioners there, and I actually go to Ojai regularly.
Well, when you're coming out, I'll hire you. Let me know when you're coming. I'd love to meet up with you in person here in our a very spiritual vortex town.
Yeah, great
So
town.
let's talk about where people can get these from you, because obviously I'm going to want the ones that you're making if they're the best ones. So let's
Yeah,
go over where people can find the forks, where people can find practitioners, and then where people can find the videos that you've made to help people do it on themselves.
sure. Okay, so where you can find forks and fork accessories, because we've developed a number of different things you can screw onto the end to enhance your experience, and that's at biofieldtuningstore.com. And when you get the Sonic Slider, it does come with free videos, so you want to make sure you take the time to watch those. And there's a whole bunch of different tuning forks, and there's a lot to discover there at the store. There's also recording. So I used to have a practice where I treated people one-on-one. My practice became so busy I couldn't manage it. And I was in the middle of nowhere in a tiny town in the mountains of Vermont, no sign on the door. But because this work works physical, helps people get out of pain, out of misalignment. Mental, it helps to quiet and focus the mental body. Emotional, it helps you to digest and integrate emotions that you haven't known what to do with. And that's a lot of what is wrong with people, is that right there. So it's very helpful with your emotional body. It helps relationally. If you're out of sorts in yourself, you're gonna bring that to your relationships. And so the more that you get your own act together, the more you can have more peaceable relationships with people. So this work works on all of those levels, even spiritual. It can help as you get the noise out of your own signal. It can help you connect to source much more clearly. And I think that's something that people can struggle with and desire, right? And so people, my practice just got busier and busier and busier, and then Tuning the Human Biofield came out, and because I learned that I could do this at a distance, like over Zoom, suddenly I was getting people from all over the world wanting appointments with me, and I just couldn't do it. It was just too much. And so someone suggested I start working with groups, and I was like, tuning for like group distance tuning for healing, like I would never sign up for something like that. That sounds like the most ridiculous thing ever. But necessity is the mother of invention, and so I started off doing them for free. And then sending out questionnaires and like, did you feel anything? Was it helpful? And the response I got was overwhelming, that people found doing these group sessions really beneficial. So that was a way for me to treat way more people. It cost less for them. It worked better for me. And so I created this whole library of biofield tuning recordings, things like a 3-hour adrenal rhythm reset, 3 different sessions, all kinds of resources there, plus a bunch of free ones too. So you can check that out. There's also at biofieldtuning.com a practitioner directory, and we do have people all over the world, but everyone is trained to do it at a distance. So we do have like level 1 and 2 is our certification, level 3 and 4 are advanced trainings. So people who've done those advanced trainings, it says that if you want someone who's more advanced, that information is there. And then, so let's see. And then where you can also learn more, right? I've got both my books, and they're both on Audible as well. I've done so many podcasts, like so many podcasts. So you can go on Spotify, you search my name. You can go on YouTube and search my name, many, many podcasts. And then I have my own channel where there's a lot of videos explaining. There's a bunch of videos on the Sonic Slider and different ways to use it. So there's more videos there. I have a series called Sonic Sundays where I talk about delicate and difficult topics and then do a free tuning. So I think there's 28 of those. There's like 35 free tunings on YouTube and like 5 on our website. So there's so much free stuff out there that you can avail yourself to. Right. And then if you want to go dip into the more paid stuff, it's there as well.
Perfect. Okay, I know what I'm doing right after we're done with this.
Right, but I
Sending you
just want to give a word of caution because somebody recently commented on YouTube that they binged on my Sonic Sundays and they created a detox response in themselves. They said they were in bed for 3 weeks. Okay, so
Whoa.
yeah, this work is potent. It's real. It gets in there and it moves stuff, and it can produce a detox response. I've had many detox responses, things like flu-like symptoms or interesting bathroom experiences. I've come out in rashes, because when you release the tension from particular areas of your body, now areas that garbage trucks couldn't get to, they can. And so your body will start releasing the toxins that were held in patterns of tension. And so if you got a lot of trauma and you have a lot of tension and you binge on my stuff, you may put yourself into detox. So, recognize that it's better metered out in doses than binged on.
No, I understand. I had a healer friend of mine years ago, and I helped her discover that some of her clearings, like I binged on her clearings, and then I got kind of sick, but I wasn't. It was funny. My body had a response, but I felt fine. But it was kind of detoxing. I was having, it was blowing my nose and eliminating in that way, and my body anyway, it was just going through a process. And I'm like, yeah, okay, tell everybody to not like they need to sit with this because this is really powerful, energetic work. So I'm sure of that with yours too. I just mean I'm not gonna binge on doing it. I might go binge on watching or learning a few things I can add because I think even if it's 5 minutes a day, there's benefit to doing
Yeah,
something with this.
absolutely.
Just like with sunlight, if you're not willing, or meditation, you can't meditate for 30 minutes, meditate for 5 minutes. If you can't exercise, walk for five. Like just start with something because something gets it moving. And we could all use a little bit more flow and a little bit more coherence and definitely cleaning up our energetic field, both inside and out. So thank you so much. You're so amazing. This has been a great interview, and I really appreciate all of your knowledge, expertise, and your attitude, if you will. I help people with intuition and things like that and want people to live in flow and connection to source and teach law of attraction. And what that means to me is to sort of show up unattached and just sort of be led into like what's next for you with curiosity. And I keep doing that more and more recently where I'm just like, I mean, you and I haven't met, and I've started reading your book, but I haven't finished your book. I haven't watched any of your videos. I haven't heard you on any podcast. It's just like I trust that this is a direction that it's going to go in. And I've had your book for a year. So it was like this was the time. And I'm like, okay, this is the time. I just read a book that led me back to a book I've had for 20 years that I have never read. I'm like, okay, it's time for this book now. Like, or I'm just going to go show up here because my intuition says this is what you should do. Even if you don't want to do it, you're just going to go listen to it. But, being able to be in that flow takes a new set of awareness, right? Because it's listening at a deeper level, which most people have so much noise in their lives that they don't know what intuitive hits they're getting because their mind is racing and running, their body's disconnected. And so if we can get people into their bodies more, then they can just slow down, relax, ground, and then really be, like you said, coherence, but really be in tune with where source wants you to go, where your body wants you to go, where your intuition wants you to go. And life actually gets way easier that way when
Yeah.
you just don't have such a grip on a plan or on this is how something has to be. Like allow it to unfold. Life can be magical. And I think and the body is absolutely magical and it can heal itself if it has the right tools and if it has the right frequencies and voltage. So I look forward to practicing with your stuff. And thank you so much, Eileen. I look forward to maybe talking to you again in the future once I get going a little bit more with our stuff. And everybody reach out, check the show notes for all of the links we've talked about to get the videos, to get the books, to get your fork, to get the free trainings and that come with the forks or without. And report back and let me know how it went. Thanks, Eileen, for being here.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, JJ.